Welcome to another session of Stelmo's Rants and Raves. I'm Stelmo. Let's jump right into it. Again, we're at the libertydaily.com, and we're going to start one of their main headlines here. It says, South Carolina governor calls special session on redistricting budget. You know, it's interesting. Trump was after them in Indiana to do a redistricting of their congressional map, and there was some pushback from them and from some fellow Republicans. So Trump decided that the smart thing to do would be to run credible opponents against them in the primary and get rid of them. And that's what happened. And lo and behold, they did the right thing after that, and they redid their map. And you now have some state senators in Indiana who are now on the unemployment line where they rightfully belong. So I could not understand, and knowing what happened in Indiana and Trump's victory there, I couldn't understand. I think it was 5 senators in South Carolina who opposed redoing their map. Why, I can't tell you. And but from what I gather, some calls were made. Maybe these people were living in such a bubble that they were unaware that what had happened in the election in Indiana. And that these people are pretty busy, so I think that is a real possibility. But now the governor has done the right thing, and he's called them into session. The only thing that I'm a little weary about is he's called them back into session for not just to redistrict, but also the budget. And that, I don't know how this is going to play out, but it looks to me like they're throwing in a bone there, and that bone may be used against the redistricting. In other words, they could successfully work on the budget and disagree again on the redistricting and the special session. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying one thing Republicans like to do when they have an issue, they like to add thorny amendments to it, which then drags people to vote against it, and this is never good. But I'm glad to see that South Carolina is moving forward with this. I want again remind people, the Democrats, or the Democratic Party, which is now run by the Socialist Party of America, they're looking to destroy our country. They've done a very good job so far, and maybe they're going to be successful because they're responsible, at least in part, for this huge debt that we have, a debt that's never going to be paid back. And it's hanging over our heads as well as that of future generations. And you got to feel sorry for young people today. The country that we're leaving them is far from being optimally run and so heavily in debt. And it's not just, we always talk about the debt that the federal government has, but the states, many of the states at least, certainly almost all of the blue states, they have these huge, huge deficits. And even with borrowing all that money that they borrow, they still find that they want to spend more money than they have coming in. And part of the problem with these loans is that they, when they're spending money, it's not all going where people think it is, because they've found a way to get their tentacles into it, and they're lining their pocket. And this is something that, we have heard for quite some time. So another headline here reads, and this is interesting, as it's actually it's a video, and let me see here. I'm getting it's right here. Okay, here we go. British productivity was rising, then suddenly stopped starting in 2008, and that's, like I said, a video. In 2008 was the great financial crisis, and the problems that caused that collapse have never really been addressed. All they did is bandage it up and went back to their bad ways, let me put it that way. And so, because the underlying system wasn't fixed in 2008, it's still problematic. And right now, it's in the verge of, well, it's ever progressing towards a collapse. You know, I just looked before starting this video, and today the 10-year yield is up 9 basis points. And you're going to see it continue to grow because inflation is growing, in part because of the Iran war. And certainly that's who everyone is going to blame it on, even though while the Iran war has been a major contributor, it hasn't been the sole reason that inflation has risen as much as it does. But the higher inflation goes, the higher these interest rates are going to go. Think about it. If you're getting 3% interest and inflation is 3.5%, are you going to keep your money there? No, because you're losing money. And I don't see our way out of this. If anybody out there in the listening audience has any idea on how we could pull out of this, I'd love to hear it. I don't think we could raise taxes enough to solve the problem, because the minute you start raising taxes, you're going to cut into productivity. That's just how things work. So I believe we are in so many doom loops right now that are playing out. And which one is going to take us down? I don't know. But I know that George Soros and his minions have been working on this for a long time. People are afraid to call it out for what it is. And as a result of that, the living dead out there, which is the vast majority of our population, they have no clue what's going on, none whatsoever. And it's sad because they're all going to have to pay a price down the road when things degrade even further. So let's move on here. U.S. House advances bills targeting fraudulent foreign election donations and interference. Well, it seems common sense to me. My question is why hasn't this been done a long time ago? Why have they ever allowed this to happen? It would be the more appropriate question. And the reason is because they want to line their pockets, and perhaps not illegally. You know, in the House especially, they have to run for re-election every 2 years. So they're constantly needing money to get elected. And so they're always looking to increase the locations and people that can make these donations. And so they go outside of the country. And that's sad because a lot of these places may not have the best will for the American people on their plate. So, antivirus. Are we on the verge of another pandemic? Well, you know, I find it highly suspicious, really suspicious, and it just may be a bunch of coincidences. Those things do happen, but whether or not that's what's happening in this case, I couldn't possibly tell you. But so moving on here, Iran says it has no trust in the United States, insists there is no military solution. Well, I believe that there is no military solution for those in power in Iran right now. They need to be taken out. I keep repeating myself. It's my opinion. The sooner this happens, the better. I think Donald Trump and all of this delay and all of this other stuff is not going to bode well. It's because we're going to pay the price for this for years, so much. Besides, it's not just the oil. Many other things go through the strait, and it's affecting those things. And then, of course, oil itself is causing everything else to go up. Oil right now is over $100 a barrel, and I fear it's going to go higher because I don't get it. And let me be clear here. I always recognize that Donald Trump, as president, is privy to a whole lot of information on this that we are not. So perhaps there's something in there that's preventing him from moving forward or holding him back. I don't know what that possibly could be. But, if we can't take out Iran, we are in deep, deep trouble. And that's the way it's starting to look. It's looking like we're just not willing now, after starting this thing, to take the steps to finish it. And I know it's politically treacherous to put boots on the ground. But I think in this case, it can be done pretty intelligently. Let us not forget that we had two pilots, or a pilot and a gunner, go down, and we were able to retrieve them. In doing so, we actually had a base set up on the ground in Iran. So we can get into Iran and we can put boots down there and we can retract them like we did. I think they said there were over 100 people on the ground in Iran in dealing with that pilot and his gunner. So, I think if our military is what we played it out to be, I don't think that this should be the biggest impediment out there. Yeah, is it possible we may lose some troops? Yeah, I think we might lose some troops. But, I think that it's being exaggerated. I really think that we have put a world of hurt on the Iranians in power. And, I've seen videos put out by 2CTV which show, young teenage kids, maybe some of them are even preteens, and they're in military uniform and they have military weapons, because that's what Iran has to rely on now, because we've taken out so many of their people. I'm sure everybody's viewed some of the video clips of us taking out their vehicles and stuff. Every time a vehicle gets taken out that's being moved, there's someone in there operating it, and there's probably more than one person. And when they get all blown up, those people are gone. And we've done this how many hundreds, thousands of times. So, we've hit their barracks and stuff. So they have to, they also put women out there fighting. They just are running out of men. And keep in mind, the radical Islamic fundamentalists in Iran only constitute 4 to 5% of the population. And while that in and by itself is a sizable number, once you start taking out vast swaths of this population, you put them in a world of hurt. And so rather than give them time to regroup and put their somewhat destroyed, but not fully destroyed weapons together, all they have to do is do one attack that hits, a major thing. I don't know what that could possibly be. And if I did, I wouldn't say. But we're just giving them way too much time in this alleged ceasefire, which has not been a ceasefire. Let's not kid ourselves. It has not been a ceasefire. So here's another interesting headline. Ebola outbreak in Africa kills 65 with hundreds infected with potentially deadly virus. This again, we see where there are periodically breakouts of Ebola in Africa. And so far, they have been able to keep them all in Africa, and it hasn't been a worldwide problem. But every time it happens, you got to be cautious, and you have to wonder, have the deep staters now possibly done some modification of Ebola to make it even more deadlier and easier to transmit, and put it out there in the public? I'm not saying that's happened. I have no proof one way or the other, but look, I know they tried it one time with the first pandemic. That wasn't as successful as they were hoping. So I know that there are these, and I don't really think there are too many people in our government that are complicit in this. Certainly Dr. Anthony Fauci was, and for whatever reason, our government now has given him a break. And so that's enough to make you really wonder how this is going to play out. I don't have the answer to that, but we're going to have to wait and see. So with that, I'm going to close for this one, and I'll see you in my next video. And I hope you all have a good day. Stay safe. Crazy world out there. Thanks. Bye-bye.